365 more days, and then I think we need to do it again, but we'll use the time to recover. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Well, I try not to believe everything I read on the internet, but over the past 10 years, I've read a good deal about the rigorous admission standards to public schools in New York City for kindergartners. I've read that kindergartners, I thought I was playing it loud. No falling asleep here. How are you doing, Mike and Ben? Good? Well, maybe some of you know some New Yorkers and can verify or disprove what I've read, but I've read how competitive it is to get into public school kindergarten in New York City, and that parents have to start paying tutors $300 an hour to train the kindergartners or the kindergartners to be to take these tests well, to teach them about poise and eloquence and eye contact, all in between episodes of Bluey and toilet training. It sounds ridiculous, I think, selectivity like this, but maybe it's hypocritical of me to point this out because it's the direction that we're all headed in, I think. When I was in high school, I was really happy to have been admitted to St. Olaf College, but I don't think it was a very big accomplishment. When I applied, most high schoolers got into St. Olaf College. And then I obtained my degree from St. Olaf College, and I have been overjoyed to learn that since I've obtained my degree, the college has tried to accept fewer and fewer and fewer people. This is good news because I already have my degree. But I imagine that a present-day version of me would not get into St. Olaf College, and I think this is a good idea if St. Olaf actually wants to increase their endowment and become a top 50 school. A few years after I got my degree from St. Olaf College, by a loophole, I was admitted to the University of Chicago. The loophole being that I applied for a program at the University of Chicago that no one really applies to. It was not the Booth School of Business or the Pritzker School of Medicine. It was not the law school where President Barack Obama once taught. It was the Divinity School. A self-selecting crowd, to be sure. And even though there weren't so many applicants at the Divinity School, people there were still very, very, very smart. Everybody studied and read. And while it wasn't so hard to get in a master's program at the Divinity School, it was very difficult to get into the PhD program there. It was very difficult to get in, not because of the pay. It was more than full-time study for about $30,000 a year. It wasn't because of your job prospects after graduating. Your job prospects were bad. It was hard to get into because, well, everybody just wanted to get into it. It sort of felt like everybody just wanted to get that sticker from the teacher that said, teacher's favorite. Everybody applied, and so we all wanted to get in. Now, it seems like what passes for excellence in our time is often based on superiority. It's about leaving people out that makes something excellent. Whether we're talking about schools or workplaces or neighborhoods or sports teams, I think churches should be like this too. Maybe churches should start leaving people out. Well, don't worry. We had over 150 children audition for this year's Christmas pageant. And I'm sure you could tell we only accepted the best 20 actors. We're very exclusive here at the Congregational Church of Excelsior. We've had 60 people or so become new members over the past 2 years, and they will tell you about how rigorous it is to become a new member here. The essays you write, the inquisitions you pass. Not anybody can do it. And the people who've been members here for a long time, if there weren't very many of you, that's because the other people just couldn't pass muster. To maintain membership here, you have to maintain your credentials: an active prayer life, study of Scripture, 10% tithing. It's hard to be here. We don't want to accept just anyone here. This isn't true, of course. Every kid had a role in the pageant, and anybody who leaves this church leaves by their own volition, and we wish them well. And every person who wants to be a member here can be a member here. We'll love you. We'll accept you. We care about this. And even as we're so accepting, we still are responsible. I think it's one thing to accept anyone into a speaking role or a singing role or a leadership role. At the same time, we have expectations for excellence from the leaders, because this is a great tradition, this church, and the hope that you all have, the investments you've made in this place, our vision for the future demands excellent leadership. So we do take some things seriously, but to focus more generally on what just happened this morning, whether the kids in the program or the microphones that we can't quite figure out but will figure out someday, or our low bar for admissions, or our ever-expanding welcome statement, which you could read on the back of your bulletin, it makes me wonder, are we too loosey-goosey here? Do we accept too many people? Do we need to maintain our excellence by leaving some people out? Because if more and more people keep coming to this church, I don't know if more and more people are going to keep coming to this church. Are we okay? Which one do you want me on? My wireless one or pulpit we're on? Okay. Well, even if you can't hear me, you've all been very well behaved. So I'm wondering what happens if we continue to accept people. If more and more people keep coming to our church. If more and more people keep coming to our church, there's a good chance that you or I won't like some of the new people, or maybe what's happening because of them. Maybe they'll dress funny, or they'll have weird ideas, or they'll sit in the pew that you always sit in. You'll come to church on a Sunday morning and Hank will be there to pass out a bulletin in the breezeway, as usual. Thank God that won't change. But then you'll come into the sanctuary and you'll see some folks who are maybe dressed a little rough. They could clean up a little bit, a little dirt under their fingernails, and you could call these people shepherds. Or you'll walk in and you'll see some outspoken people who have ideas about how we need to love and care for the world that's out there. And their ideas seem a little controversial and a little difficult and maybe not very necessary. And you could call these people prophets. Or you'll come in here and you'll see some lawyers and doctors and entrepreneurs and business types, people very well dressed, who speak with eloquence, who've attended institutions you or I couldn't get in, and that will explain who is driving the nice car that's in the parking lot. You could call these people wise people. Or you'll walk in and you will see a family, a very non-traditional family sitting in a pew together. A family everybody's been talking about. You could call them Mary and Joseph. You'll walk into this church and you'll see this motley crew all gathered together around a baby in the front of the church. You could call this baby Jesus. And you'll wonder, who are these people? What is happening to my church? What has happened to our former excellence? And this would be a very valid concern if the entire Christian story depended upon our excellence. But it does not. What the whole Christian story depends on, the whole Christian story of God loving and saving the world, all that depends on is God's excellence, in which God gathers together the whole world and enters this chaos in the form of a vulnerable, messy little baby. And we look at everybody who this gathers and we think this will not work because everybody's too different. People are always going to hate one another, and come to think of it, there are some people that I don't like myself. And in response to this, God will just shrug and come closer to us and widen her embrace and ask everybody to come here. And we'll walk into this church or stable or manger and we'll see the people who are here and we'll say, there's a place for them too? And God will nod and say, yes, there's a place for them too. God is in charge of this whole production, this whole pageant, this whole church, this whole world. And it could have probably been organized a lot better. Everybody's got their feelings on how it could have been improved, what the problems are with the world. But God is in charge of it all. And at the end of this production, God will put his hands upon every person, every actor, everyone who has messed up. And God will say, it's okay. There's a place for you. I think that's the most excellent thing of all.